Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widget here, coming at you with some more strategy games with AoE 3DE, and today I've got another little guide or a tip video for you. So I've done a few of these on the channel now and I'm seeing some really good reception, so thank you very much guys for your support, really appreciate it. So today we're going to be looking at the key differences between 1v1 and team games. This is the considerations that you need to take into account when you want to play a team game compared to when you play 1v1s. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 top tips and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Right, so the first thing to consider is your deck. So make sure that you adjust your deck appropriately to a team-based game. Obviously there's many decks out there that you can check out online, but if you've got a 1v1 deck that you're comfortable with, just make a few tweaks to that. Ideally you kind of want to maybe tweak and have a few more resource cards. You want to kind of have more later aged cards, so more age 3 cards potentially than age 2, and also potentially some team-based cards as well that can help your team, so that can be really good, especially good in 3v3 and 4v4 games. So the second thing to consider is team communication. This is really important. So if you can find some people within Discord or something where you can actually talk to each other, that will be ideal because you can have really snap responses and communication there and then in real time, and you don't have to keep stopping and typing, which can take a lot longer and it's harder to get your point across. If you can't do that, then I would suggest always talking to your team. Especially the first thing you should ask is, what's the plan? What are we doing? What's our style? Do you want to take water? What do you want to do? What kind of unit composition do you want to go? Like what, all these questions. And also, like, do you want to put a forward base out? So for example, you may see FB, which means forward base, or you may see someone say B, which is get back, retreat, and all these sort of things that you need to consider. So just bear that in mind. Ideally, try and see if you can get yourself onto a community server and just sort of put yourself out there. There are plenty of communities out there on Discord, especially like my community, for example, quite a tight-knit one, about 30 people, but you've got bigger servers like the Aussie Drongo server, you've got ESO server, and you can find people to play with through that, so I really recommend it. So the third consideration is walling. Now normally in 1v1 games, a lot of the time in 1v1s, you won't really need to wall around your base because it's very open, the map's relatively small, so you'll have an idea of where your enemy always is, and as you expand out on that map, you won't really need to wall off as much because it will just be you against your opponent. However, in team games, anything can happen. You could have people trying to do some sort of backdoor rush, some sort of stealth base in the corner of the map, like build a few military buildings in the corner of the map, start getting units out. So anything can happen, and it's really important that you sort of consider walling. Maybe around the 15-minute mark, maybe even earlier than that. You kind of want to really think about walling up. Probably between the age 2 and age 3 sort of transition. Just make sure that you start getting walls up, especially for native allies as well. Just try and help and to wall their base off because it's more difficult for them to wall. And yeah, it just sort of covers yourself, especially if you're going to be booming, because in team games you generally play more of the economical battle and more of the long-term sort of goal rather than the short-term in team games. So just something to definitely consider.
How well my longbowman can do against him.
Fourth consideration is unit composition, and I mentioned this in the second consideration, and this is essentially the sort of bread and butter of team games. And excluding China, you kind of want to just really stick with one unit type. So if you're playing a 3v3 or a 4v4, you sort of want to try and commit yourself to one type of unit. Now the reason you want to do that is because then you can plan your economy around it, and it's a lot simpler for you, and you can get those units out a lot quicker. And you just want to think about like counters as well, and you want to try and sort of merge them all together and have the best sort of army composition for your whole team. So for example, if you've got 3 people in a team, one person might go skirmishers, one might go heavy infantry, the other might go cav. You'll all sort of generally chip in and get some artillery and stuff like that, but most of the time you'll sort of try and sort of fixate yourself on one type of unit. And the final consideration is just take the water. If there's someone on the team that can take water, do it. especially when you're in a 3v3 or a 4v4 and it's a water map and there's the opportunity to fish. Someone should take the sea because it's such an economical advantage, and especially if someone's got a sieve that's especially good on the water and they've got a deck for it, they should definitely go for it. Even if they probably don't like going it, you should probably try and persuade them to do it because it can really, really help in a game. You don't have to, but it's something that should definitely be considered when you're on a water map and there's a lot of you in a team. 2v2 is kind of different. That sort of depends on the scenario, but definitely with the larger team games, the 3v3 and the 4v4, you want to get on that water and definitely contest it because the enemy will if you don't. So that's it, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. Kind of an interesting one. Once again, I haven't really seen a video like this floating around on YouTube. So if you liked it, you know, drop a like. Let me know down below in the comments whether there's anything you think I missed, that I got wrong, that you don't believe is a consideration that should be made when you're playing team games. As I say, this video is sort of for someone who's, as I say, relatively new to the game, maybe only likes to play solo games, maybe against just the AI, or they just like to ladder 1v1, and they haven't really played team games, and they're not too sure if there's any sort of real changes. I think these considerations will really help. If you're finding these videos really helpful, please let me know down in the comments below, and any recommendations of videos will be greatly appreciated. So have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you in the next video.